Good evening. This is the Village Council Public Workshop. The date is July 10th, 2024. The time is 7:30. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled to same as provided by law of a schedule, including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Perrin. Here. Councilmember Reynolds.
Here.
Councilmember Whites is absent. Councilmember Winograd.
Here.
Mayor Vagianos.
Here, will you all please join us in a salute to our flag? And before we begin, I'd just like to say that out of an abundance of caution, Lorraine has stayed home because she may have been exposed to COVID, and so she is participating remotely. And now we will go to public comments. And now we will go to public comments.
One up.
Yeah,
Yes.
press over here. We moved it. Just make sure the green light's on when you get to the mic. At the bottom, there'll be a green light on, if it's on. Like the base of the microphone, all the way down at the bottom.
Dylan? He's got it.
Got it. Hello.
Perfect.
Russell Forenza, 228 Emmett Place, Ridgewood, New Jersey, 0745128032881. I don't like coming to meetings, so obviously I'm here. I mentioned this a few times, that I did mention to some of you individually, but I'll just go over it briefly. What do I have, 3 minutes? Number one is street signs. When we're putting up street signs now, and we've been doing this for years, I know on my block it had to be at least 20 years now, we just got one sign up. We don't put the cross street there. We should go back to putting the 2 signs up. It's very helpful for people, especially out-of-towners, when they're coming out there, what the hell street am I on? They don't know. Let's go back with that. Number 2, the shredder. I brought that up a few times. Let's get a shredder in town, put it in the recycling center. We're closed on Wednesdays. We could let other towns come in on a Wednesday, open it up. I know we can make money on it. We can let businesses come in on a Wednesday when we're closed. We can make money on this. It'll pay for itself. Let's get an in-house shredder. I don't believe any other towns have it. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know we go outside to buy it, and so do companies go outside. But if they know every Wednesday they can come to Ridgewood to shred, I think it'll pay for itself. The other thing I mentioned is to pave the recycling lot. That lot has always got holes in it. They're always patching it up. Everybody goes in there. You got to bump along with it. Wednesday's a good day to, if it may take longer than that, I don't know how many days it'll take, but at least a Wednesday when it's closed, you can go in and do whatever you got to do and get that done. Next is, and I see it's on the agenda tonight, Ridgewood Water, but let's fix the water problem. I moved here in '51 with my parents when I was 7 years old, in September of '51. So from 1952 on, we've always had a water shortage. In fact, we had to do our own private wells so we could have water to water our lawns. It goes back that far, and it never ended. It's still here, and it continues with us to this day. So let's figure out something. If we got to buy water from Hackensack, it's United Water, or whoever they are now, the French name, or whoever they are, let's get water. I know we use Hawthorne water too. How does Ho-Hocus do it? I mean, I don't know where they get their water from, but they're a very small town, and they seem to have plenty of water all the time. The next thing is, and since I got some time, if the governor or the president decide to send illegals to Ridgewood, I heard rumor to that effect, where would we put them? Now, I know we got Valley Hospital over there. Would that be a Valley Health Center, rather, or the Ridgewood campus of Valley Health is over there, and I'm sure that's a building could be used. Or do we use our schools and we put them in our schools? And I know we would have to fund it. So where would the money come from? And how would we fund this if we had to do this? Is anybody giving thought to that, and what's the consequences of that if Murphy or the president decide, hey, we're just going to send them to Ridgewood, New Jersey. They got an empty building over there. You fit a couple hundred people in there. They got a school system that they rent out over on Glen School on the other side of the highway. They can take that back, and we can use that school, and they can kick those people out as tenants, and we can use that as put all these illegal people in. I call them illegal. You can call them whatever you want. These are serious issues. I don't know if you think about it. Maybe you don't even think about it. Maybe it doesn't come to your mind. It always comes to my mind when things like this occur, because I know eventually down the road you're going to get stuck with it, because on the national level they can't seem to do it or handle the problem. Thank you so much, and have a nice evening, everybody.
Thank you, Russ. Anybody else? Seeing no one, I'm going to close public comment. Would anyone like to comment on Russ's recommendations?
Mayor, just a few comments to Mr. Forenza. He and I actually had a lengthy conversation at the Memorial Day service about some of the issues he brought up tonight. We have had some internal conversation about placing a shredder at the recycling center. No decision's been made. We've also talked internally about the paving of the lot at the recycling center and whether we incorporate that into our paving program for capital in 2025. As far as the purchase of water, we do purchase water from Veolia, Hawthorne Borough, and from Passaic Valley Water Commission. However, the distribution of that water within our system, it needs to be our next focus. So the council earlier this year approved a contract to do some hydraulic modeling to determine what the best course of action is to move water that we do purchase from outside vendors and within our well system from tower to tower within the Ridgewood water system. So that is going to be an area of priority now that we're closing up in the next 2 years on the PFAS treatment facilities, and that will be a focus. And lastly, on undocumented folks coming to the village, the mayor and I actually had an extensive conference call right around New Year's with the governor's office. We do have an action plan and direction. It involves direction from the state police and from state OEM that if we do have folks who are brought to Ridgewood or are reliant on our transportation system in or out of Ridgewood, we do have protocols that we will follow, which are outlined by the state police.
I also do appreciate having street signs with the cross streets on them, and I have not heard that we have stopped doing that. If that's a new policy, I'd like to know about it.
Yeah,
because I think
I'll
it
check
really
with
is
Rich
good.
Charlton at Signal to see exactly how we've been handling that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have to say, Russ, I really liked your recommendations. I feel the same way that Pam does about the street signs. I don't know what the cost is. I don't know how many we need to put up, but I'd certainly like to find out. The shredder, it reminds me of the
Densifier.
the styrofoam densifier. And I'd love to see the arithmetic on that. I'm sure that if you toss that over Sean Hamlin's way, he'll jump on that. And obviously, you know, paving the recycling lot, and he spoke about the other things. But thanks for those very good suggestions. And let's move on. What are we doing?
Manager's report?
Managers report. Managers.
First of all, Mayor, I would just like to extend a lot of thanks to the Ridgewood community. Today marks my 1-year anniversary as village manager here in Ridgewood. I have to tell you that I've had the awesome opportunity to meet some great people, share in the successes of this municipality, and also face some significant challenges that we continue to work through. Without question, Ridgewood is a very special place with a lot of community engagement, vast resources, a lot of pride, and a lot of tradition. And I want to thank the staff here at Village Hall and all of our village employees for working with my office to continue to get the job done and best serve the residents here in the village. And I look forward to tackling the challenges as we enter into year 2. I also want to extend my heartfelt thanks to the 4th of July Committee for an outstanding job both with the parade and the fireworks. Truly, Ridgewood outdoes themselves each and every 4th of July, and that was certainly on display last week. Next Thursday, we will have an exciting announcement in conjunction with DEP Commissioner Sean Latourette with Ridgewood Water, so we're looking forward to that. But as we know, Ridgewood Water has been a leader when it comes to water quality and building out our PFAS treatment facilities, and we'll have an exciting announcement to share with the residents and the customers in the service area next week. The mayor and I had the opportunity with Chris Rudishauser to meet with county engineering and the county administrator, Tom Dutch, yesterday at One Bergen County Plaza with regard to the West Glen Sidewalk project. I know I've received a few emails from the residents on West Glen We are currently in the process of evaluating the best way to do this project and the safest way to do this project in coordination with the county. The county does have some concerns about adding retaining walls in the county right-of-way on the eastbound side of the street, and we are in discussion right now with the DEP of the possibility of adding those sidewalks to the westbound side of the street. So more to come on that as we work with the DEP to seek those approvals. I want to thank the Ridgewood Police Department for an outstanding junior police academy. I had the opportunity to attend their graduation recently. I have to tell you, the police officers who work with these kids, they take them on field trips, they teach them about law enforcement and the importance of public safety and police work. And I just want to give kudos to Chief Lyons and his team in the police department for an outstanding program. Little tidbit on where we are with Millennium Strategies and our pursuance of grants in the village. We were earlier this year awarded a $68,000 grant for an ADA accessible playground at Habernickel Park. But I think it should be noted that our grant applications that have already been submitted for consideration to various government agencies and other grant programs now totals over $4.7 million in pending applications that we're waiting to hear back on, and we are currently in progress of submitting another $475,000 in pending grant applications. So all told, we will have well over $5 million in pending grant applications by Labor Day of this year. So we're working hard with Millennium. Our department directors are identifying areas that we can pursue these grants, and we're looking forward to some positive results in that space. I want to thank the residents for their cooperation with regard to early morning collections. Obviously, the heat has been very oppressive of late, and we appreciate the residents' cooperation in trying to keep our employees safe as we try to get through these various heat waves. The Ridgewood Police Department has placed advertisements out for Class 3 special police officers. We are in the process of identifying eligible candidates to take on those roles that will be assigned to the Ridgewood Public Schools come September. So we're working closely with Dr. Schwartz at the Ridgewood Public Schools and Chief Lyons to interview these potential employees over the summer months so that we have them in place after Labor Day. Looking forward to the announcement of Boxcar opening at the Ridgewood train station for light refreshments in the morning to service our commuters. They'll be working with local businesses to buy those refreshments and then be able to provide them under the Boxcar banner at the train station. So we're looking forward to the grand opening of that in the next month or so. I do want to extend some acknowledgement to Mitchell Sarrow, who is a native of Ridgewood and will be joining Team USA. He actually leaves tomorrow. He will be participating in the Summer Olympics in Paris in the men's fencing sporting events. So we look forward to Mitchell's participation in the Summer Olympics, and we wish him much success. Found out late this afternoon that we will not have to send out estimated tax bills. We received the rate from Bergen County Tax Board late this afternoon. That'll be about a $5,000 savings doing one mailing instead of two. And by the end of this month, the regular tax bills should be in the mailboxes of residents throughout Ridgewood. And lastly, tomorrow, parts of East Glen Avenue will be closed due to resurfacing efforts and concrete work. We've coordinated with engineering and the police department. We've put that information out to the public this evening. So we're asking people to just be patient with us. It's one day of disruption tomorrow, but we're hoping that everyone will take a little extra time, follow the detours, and we appreciate everyone's patience as we make a long-term improvement in that space. A few announcements. The Ridgewood Guild is continuing to provide their live music downtown on Friday nights through Labor Day. Music in the Park, sponsored by Destination Ridgewood, is happening on Saturday evenings from 7:30 to 9:30 at Van Ness Square. The Cashaw Shell concerts begin at 8:30 each Tuesday and Thursday night through the end of August. The Ridgewood Guild, free movies in the park, commence on Wednesday night at 9 p.m. at Van Ness Square. The Ridgewood Chamber of Commerce is holding their farmers market through October 29th, 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. each Sunday at the train station on the west side. The Ridgewood Guild Art in the Park, taking place the first Friday in August from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Graydon Pool is now open daily from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And every day I look out my window in my office, I have a beautiful view of Graydon Pool, and I can tell you with the temperatures being what they are, the pool's been packed over the last couple of weeks. And finally, Village Council meetings upcoming, July 17th, public meeting at 7:30, August 7th, work session at 7:30, and August 14th, public meeting at 7:30. And that concludes my report, Mayor.
Thanks, Keith. Siobhan?
Sure. I have a couple quick updates. So last week we met with 4 of our interns who are working on a parks inventory assessment. This is in conjunction with Pam and the Parks Department and Open Space working the master plan. And I want to thank our interns. I want to thank Jim Bossler from Open Space, Frank from Parks and Rec, and we are beginning to work what we want our parks to look like online. And so the general idea is I'm new to town. I want to go to a place that has a play structure and a walking path, and do they have these amenities? And that'll be for the website, but it'll also be when we have a catalog of all of our amenities in a readable form, a touchstone for us for budgeting. You know, does it need this? Should it have that? That's where the recommendations come. So next Wednesday on July 17th, our interns will be back. They will be presenting here. So I hope everyone's very excited about that. And next week, very nice to them when they show up. And thank you to everybody on that. Also, with Lorraine's permission, I've met with a couple citizens, and she's been meeting as well, and we've been having some ongoing discussions about pedestrian-activated crosswalks and a more holistic approach to crosswalks in general. So I want to thank everybody who reached out to both me and Lorraine and I think several other council members, but we are going to be gathering information not only on the pedestrian-activated, but some ways to enhance crosswalks. Obviously, you know, just little bit of information. The longer the crosswalk, the more dangerous it is. So I want to thank Keith and the police for providing us information, and thank you, Lorraine. It's always fun wherever you are out there. And so, additionally, last week we talked about the Joydo field trip, and there was an expression from Access to look inside the Shedler house because it is available space, and they wanted to see it through the Access lens. So on July 17th, we will be taking a field trip with our Access group to look at it from possible improvements, some ideas that they have for accessibility. The special needs population is constantly looking for space. They're, you know, Joydo's in the Bolger building, and this is a great idea, so I'm very much excited. And if one of you wants to come from the council, only one of you can come, I'd love for you to be a part of that. It's on July 17th. And then we are having a housekeeping meeting for Parks and Rec, and I just wanted to announce this because we typically don't meet over the summer, but we want to make sure we've had large meetings with lots of minutes. We want to do a cleanup, move all our minutes, and that meeting will be on July 17th. It'll be on Zoom, and it's published, and we really don't have an agenda other than housekeeping and making sure that we're all set and everything is published. And lastly, even though you announced it, I did want to wish Keith a happy anniversary and say thank you for a wonderful year. Even the bad things were very well dealt with, and I'm very excited you're here, and happy anniversary.
Thank you, Siobhan.
Lorraine?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So I don't have too much. I just want to piggyback with what Siobhan said. In August, we will be talking about crosswalks and pedestrian activated signals. We're getting some information, and hopefully by our August work session, we'll have a lot to talk about. I wanted to remind everybody, Cash Rochelle, Tuesdays and Thursday nights at 8:30 in July and August. You should go there. I know it's been really hot, but the bands are great. And let's see, my last thing, last but not least, is, you know, congratulations to Keith on surviving a year at the Village as village manager. It's not easy, as I'm sure he will tell you, but I think he's done a fantastic job, and I look forward to the future and everything he's laying the groundwork for now, and hopefully will come to fruition in the next year or so. And that's it.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Thanks, Lorraine. Pam?
Thank you. I missed the last meeting, so I kind of have a lot of catching up to do with updates. I certainly want to thank Keith for this past year, and I hope we have many more going forward.
Thank you.
Also, the July 4th celebrations were just such a slice of Americana. It was a total pleasure all day long. My cheeks hurt from smiling. And so I want to thank Tara Masterson and Lee Gilsenan Saltiel and their many volunteers, all the sponsors of the events. It was really just wonderful. No wonder we had so many people from out of town coming. Okay, the Central Business District Advisory Committee met in June. We discussed marketing the downtown, beautification of the downtown, how the new blade sign ordinance will work out, possible refurbishment of the bus station, also possible transit village status, especially this, we didn't discuss this then because it hadn't happened yet, but you've probably seen in the newspapers that the Gateway Tunnel project is going forward. That can really mean a lot for Ridgewood. So that plays into transit village status if we wanted to pursue that. And speaking of beautification, I also wanted to thank the Shade Tree Commission for mulching downtown. You'll see that the trees are really leafing out beautifully. The ones we planted, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, they don't look so scrawny anymore. And let's see, and the gator bags are filled, so they're getting water, which is so important during this heat wave. The Open Space Committee, we had a park walk of Looning Park and Maple Field the last week of June, and that was Bob Lasky, one of our members, who gave that one. That was really fun. The next one is this Saturday, July 13th at 10 a.m. on, as I say, Saturday. Our chair, Jim Bosler, will be giving the walk of Grove Park. That's our biggest park in Ridgewood. And if you're driving, you need to park on Berkshire Road in the lawns and then walk on Grove Street to the trailhead. You'll see everybody congregating there. And then after that, there's a July 27th park walk at Graydon. So we'll be meeting at the bridge at 10 a.m. Fran Bartow, who's our member from the planning board, will be giving that park walk. This morning, I had the pleasure of swearing in the new directors of the Chamber of Commerce, and they're just such an active group. They're always improving what goes on in our business community. So it was really nice to have that privilege. And as Keith mentioned, there will be the sidewalk sales. That's going to be August 1st through 3rd. The Super Saturday is August 3rd, and they're going to have all kinds of events and things, great stuff for kids. So take advantage of that. As Keith also mentioned, movies in the park, that's the Guild is putting that on. Tonight is Barbie, that's what we're missing. And Green Ridgewood and Green Team will be meeting tomorrow night in the senior lounge. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Pam. I don't have much. I do want to comment on 4th of July. This was the biggest turnout at the parade, certainly since COVID, and from what I am told, in recent memory. It was also, while tickets are still being counted, these were the best sales of tickets for the 4th of July since COVID, and also in recent memory. So we had a really big turnout. So, huge kudos to Lee Gilsenan, Tara Masterson, and the entire 4th of July committee. I mean, these guys are going all day, and here's the thing. They begin planning on July 5th for next year. So it was really it's such a privilege to live here. My youngest daughter, who's now in her 30s, has always said, look, I'll spend different holidays in different places, but on the 4th of July, I want to be in Ridgewood, and that's why. So it's really great. And the only other thing I want to comment on is, I want to thank Keith for joining our little merry band of renown, because he's helped change the game here. And I think that, you know, while this council can be divided on different issues, this is something we're all unanimous about. We are grateful that you are here. We appreciate your leadership. We appreciate your stern hand on the wheel on every issue, and what seems to be your limitless patience with all of us. So thank you so much, Keith, and as Pam said, we wish you many more years here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to work here.
And now, let's get on with the rest of our
I
agenda.
just have two announcements.
By all means.
So the first is, and this has been on social media and various places on our website as well, the candidates who people who may wish to run for village council, candidate packets are available in the village clerk's office. The deadline is August 22nd, so you still have plenty of time if you're interested in running. There are 3 seats up for election, so certainly come to the village clerk's office. We'll give you the packets. We'll explain to you what you need to do. There's plenty of time to still run if you wish to do so. In addition, I did want to mention that Kevin O'Brien, who was a councilman here several years ago in the 90s, he recently passed away on June 25th. He lived in Ridgewood. He raised his family here. He did grow up in New England, moved here with his wife, and then he served in the Navy. He was also in finance, marketing, and strategic planning in his career. After he sold his house here in Ridgewood, he did move to Wyckoff for 4 years, and for the last 5 years of his life, he's actually living in Orlando in a senior living community. So I just wanted to mention to everyone that he did recently pass away, and he was certainly a dedicated councilman when he was here, and he was actually on the Economic Advisory Committee, one of the first people who served on that committee.
Thank you, Heather. And let's get on with our agenda. Keith?
Thank you, Mayor. We have nothing under Ridgewood Water this evening, nor do we have anything under parking, so we'll move right to budget. The first recommendation tonight from our Director of Public Works, Chris Rudishauser, is for the award of contract for the Fleet Services Division. These are for purchases of various parts, materials, and supplies that are necessary to maintain the village fleet. This is available through the New Jersey State Cooperative Purchasing Program, and it's not to exceed $210,000 for the purchase of these parts and materials. Any objection?
All good.
Okay, next is for the Kingsbridge Lane pedestrian bridge structural repair. This is for professional engineering services. Chris is making a recommendation to the council that we retain a qualified professional engineering firm to review the shop drawings and to do the field inspections for the bridge project. Lahita Engineering prepared the initial design drawings and technical specifications that were bid out, and he is recommending that they do the review of the drawings and the inspections for the project at a not to exceed of $22,240. Any objection? And we're going to get to item 8C5, which is the rejection of the bids, but I'll talk about that when we get to it.
Well, I was wondering, is there oversight of the removal of the USTs? This is oversight of the replacement of them.
I'm sorry, I missed your question.
This has to do with oversight of the replacement of the USTs, right?
No, this has to do with the Kingsbridge Lane pedestrian
Oh, I'm
bridge.
sorry.
Yeah, we're on item 2. So
Okay.
this is for the review of the shop drawings submitted by the or the
Oh,
ultimate
you know what? I'm looking at.
awarded bidder,
the old
and then
one.
the field inspection.
Yeah, this
Okay.
is the first set where they got mixed up. Okay.
The next item on the agenda under budget is item 3, which is award of a professional services contract to Matrix New World Engineering. This is for LSRP services relative to the soil testing and any type of remediation recommendations for the Shedler project. Okay? Just to bring everyone up to date on that, We did have soil testing done. We are waiting for the report from Matrix. I did speak to Melissa, who's the environmental scientist and project manager today. She indicated that sometime next week she anticipates that we'll have a report on the balance of the testing, and that's where we'll need the LSRP from Matrix to review those testing results, both what we have already for the berm and the balance of the project, and make recommendations and speak to the DEP about any potential remediation. And this is not to exceed $14,800 for the LSRP services. Okay. Moving on to item 4, this is with regard to the award of a contract for post-approval engineering support, construction, monitoring, and inspection services for the replacement of the fuel system at our Public Works Department. This recommendation is being made by Chris for MCK Engineering, who prepared and designed the drawings that were bid out. He's now recommending that they provide these services for the fuel system replacement and the removal of the underground storage tanks. This is a not to exceed for the engineering inspection aspect of this, $21,230. Any questions?
good.
Okay, next up is the recommendation to reject all bids for the Kingsbridge Lane pedestrian bridge structure repairs. Just to give a little history on this project, it's been discussed a lot on the dais. Bids were received on Wednesday, June 26th. They were reviewed. We had 8 registered plan holders who were eligible to bid, only 3 submitted bid packages. The bids ranged from $482,814 to a high of $632,000. The low bid was received from Fred Devins Construction Company of Ringwood, New Jersey. Again, the quote was $482,814. However, the low bidder submitted a defective bid package. The bid bond and consent of surety were not provided on the village forms. The noted defects were reviewed by Attorney Matt Rogers, and he concurred with the recommendation to reject the bid. Both other bids that were submitted exceed the budget for the project. Therefore, none of the bids are able to be awarded. Matt, I don't know if you want to add anything else on the low bidders package.
No, the low bidder, just so everybody knows, the low bidders submitted a bond form for the maintenance bond and the performance bond. That was not the form that was provided in the bid package. Our bid package expressly stated that no other form of performance bond and when it applied to the maintenance bond, no other form of the maintenance bond is acceptable to the village. With that wording and the failure to do it, failure to provide that by the low bidder, the bid had to be rejected. And there is some extra wording in our bond form that further protects the village than what was provided. So in that regard, we had to reject that bid.
So the time frame from here is if the council rejects the bids by resolution, which would happen next Wednesday night at the public meeting. Chris would then revise the bid package, advertise it. It would be rebid in August. He recommends a 2 to 3 week bid window. At that point, we would receive bids, we would review the bids, and likely award the contract in September after discussion at the first work session in September after Labor Day. Good. Okay. The next item is authorize rebid for infrared asphalt repair in addition to trench patching and miscellaneous curb and sidewalk repair. The village went out to bid on Wednesday, July 3rd. We'd received no responses to this bid package, albeit we did have 5 registered plan holders. None of them were responsive. Chris is recommending a resolution to the village council for consideration of a rebid at our next public meeting. Okay. Under policy, Deputy Mayor Perrin asked that this agenda item be added for the establishment of an ad hoc flood committee for the village. So Pam, I'll turn it over to you.
Based on my conversations with each person individually here on the dais and Keith's extensive conversations with residents who have been flooded out in their homes, we thought that a flood committee of residents who have been flooded, representing the various neighborhoods that have been flooded, would be a very good way for them to express what's happening to them and for them to receive information from the village about what options are open to us going forward. We thought that was a really important communication vehicle, and I also spoke with Green Ridgewood because there is a resilience subcommittee there, and some of the people have developed some real expertise and understanding, and you've seen them here presenting on the stormwater ordinance, for example. However, Green Ridgewood is working on several areas at once, and one of them being reaching out to the other communities in Bergen County to have a broad-based understanding of flooding and perhaps come up with some kind of solution. So there would be overlap. There should be collaboration, but there's a need for this kind of committee, and I would urge anybody who has the time, the energy, and the passion to apply to the clerk's office to be a member of this committee. The way I'm seeing it, it would be like 7 residents, a representative from our engineering department, and somebody from the council to be a liaison. And we'd have to work up a mission statement, some bylaws. We'd have to think about how often they meet. And I think there should be a liaison from Green Ridgewood as one of those 7 members. I think that would give good cross-pollination. And I don't know how long we should leave open the application period. 4 weeks? We're here in the middle of summer with half of our population gone, so I didn't want to close it too soon. I was thinking 4 weeks.
Yeah, I would yield to Heather for a recommendation on that.
Maybe do it like the week after Labor Day, just because this way, if people are away, we can put it on the website now, and, you know, then anyone interested can certainly fill out one of the citizen leadership, you know, volunteer forms, and then we'll go from there.
May I also recommend, I know we have a list of those people who attended the Army Corps meeting, the
can let them know.
140 or so people. If we send it out to that group, I'm sure that we will.
So we have all those folks in an email list now.
Yep.
So we can communicate out to that population.
I think that'd be great.
I fully support the deputy mayor's position on this. My experience in dealing with flooding in other communities is that it's very beneficial to have a residential face to this. So it's not just government officials or elected officials talking to the different levels of government, whether it be the DEP, the Army Corps of Engineers, our state legislative delegation, our federal delegation. It's meaningful when there is representation from people who are actually affected by flooding, and that they've experienced that financial hardship, that physical hardship, that emotional hardship, and that they can speak on behalf of the other residents of the community who have been similarly affected. So, you know, I look forward to working with you, Pam, on this endeavor. I think getting a mix of folks from across the community, so that we're talking about residents who may be affected by the Hohokus Brook, by the Saddle River, and then also, you know, we have a good group of folks, especially on Hope Street and in that area, who are affected by stormwater, and how the backup of our stormwater system impacts their homes as well. So I think we need to get a cross-section of folks who actually are physically affected by this, and, you know, have been affected and have had to deal with FEMA and other government agencies. But I do think there's a benefit to having a residential face to this.
Yeah, I think there are areas even on the west side that have been subject to either stormwater flooding, stormwater flooding mostly. Yep. So.
I think this is a great suggestion. I'm really happy that you brought this to us, and I think we're all going to support this completely.
Yeah, I'll work on a mission statement as a draft, and maybe we can put that up along with whatever you're putting on the website.
Do you want to establish the committee with a resolution, or just go straight ad hoc?
Good question.
Because I would think
Yeah.
it would be more bona fide putting it as a resolution and then detailing, the membership. Like you said, I'd love to see, I think it's awesome. I think it's a great idea, fully support it, but the flood committee should have representations from each body of water. You don't want to have, just
Yep.
because flooding's different, and not be too rigid with it, but I would, and if you need help, you have 7, so it's odd, which is fine.
Yes.
But you might want to say 2 appointments from Saddle River,
Right.
2 appointments from, the Hohokus Brook,
Mhm.
that kind of stuff.
Heather, how were previous ad hoc committees
We
established?
haven't had many, and really ad hoc, I think, is a finite period of time
Right.
where they serve. I think this is an ongoing issue with Ridgewood, and so perhaps it shouldn't be ad hoc. It should actually just be, I don't know what you want to call it, but a committee to deal with flooding.
Flooding.
And, and have it as an ongoing committee, because I don't think, the solutions are going to come in 1 or 2 years, it may be many years, but, and you may have turnover, and then you'd have to establish also, I agree with Councilmember Winograd, to do a resolution, you just have to establish what kind of terms you want these people to serve. You want it 2 years, staggered terms, something like that, that kind of makes sense.
Right.
But that's up to the council to decide.
Of course, Heather, having done this for so many years, says all of the insightful things that we don't think about and forget about. And in fact, what I might recommend is, Heather, if, because you do deal with this, perhaps you can make some recommendations in terms of terms, things along those lines, so to fill in the administrative gaps that we are less familiar with.
Sure.
There's
Me-
also, one thing I've never quite understood is some committees are formed by ordinance, and others, like Shade Tree, are by resolution. And,
Sometimes that happens because of the statutory authorization. HPC is a statutory committee,
and so is Green Team, I think.
so that usually is the reason why we do it by
We can't hear Matt. You have to talk into the microphone.
I'm sorry, Lorraine. It wasn't that important anyway. No, I'm only kidding. Sometimes I think what we've done, such as historic preservation, that is established by a statute, and when that happens, we do it by ordinance, because the ordinance follows the authority that the statute gives the committee, so we use that as the basis. So we can check that through, but I think with this one, this is strictly a resolution.
So if maybe if we can come to agreement to call it the Flood Advisory Committee,
Yep.
that would authorize Heather to put the advertisement for membership out there. And then in the meantime, Deputy Mayor, maybe myself, Heather, and you can sit down and sort of, we can get this down on paper amongst the 3 of us. And then we can bring that back to the council, but I don't think that should hinder advertising for the positions for those who might be
No,
interested.
I think we could get the resolution ready by next week. I really do. I mean, with the last committee we created by
Well, you don't know the
resolution,
terms- You don't know the terms or anything like
Maybe
that.
4 years.
Yeah, as long as you agree on the terms now,
because
then we could
I
do
mean,
it.
we could just do that now, because we've done this before. So when I joined here, we changed the terms of Shade Tree, because we all felt the 3 years was random. And then we do 4 years. I can send you the one we did for Pride, and it has all the questions to ask. But remember when you and I were trading off Shade Tree, we all sort of universally felt 4 years was the best term. And I'd just like to see it move forward so it's official and bona fide and has the name and the structure.
In terms of the name, and I put this out there, because we have non-residential flooding issues and we have residential flooding issues, and this is really a residential flooding committee, that perhaps the Residential Flood Advisory Committee, again, just
That's a,
just a thought, because again, we talk about all the different kinds of flooding, and this committee is not being put in place to address the other types of flooding that we have.
So Residential Flood Advisory Committee, I kind of like the 2-year terms.
Heather, what do you think?
4 years kind of scares people
I
off.
think 4 years is a long time to commit, and, 2 years might be easier. The only thing is, if you do want to stagger
Stagger.
them, then you'd have some 1-year terms to begin, and some 2-year, and then move forward from there. So, and I think Councilmember Winograd made a good comment when she said that you should have from all over, and so maybe limiting it to 2, 2, and 2. And this way, you get a good cross-section, and then you have your Green Ridgewood person as the seventh person. I think it's a good size. I think if you went up to like 9 or 10 people, it gets harder and harder to have everyone work together as a team at times,
Right.
because everyone has such divergent issues and views. So I think a 7-member with our engineering council member and possibly our village manager or designee as well would be beneficial. So is everyone in agreement with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do 2 years, we'll do 1 year for one from each of those sections, 2 for the other. That'll be rotating, then when those 1 years are up, it'll be a 2-year to begin with staggered terms. And then we also have the Green Ridgewood rep, and we have the council rep, engineering rep, and then I think it would be beneficial to have the village manager designee there
So
as
this
well.
deputy mayor and I had this discussion, you know, I would staff this committee, and then there'd be a representative from engineering as well.
Okay, okay, good.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Instead of doing like the 1 year and 2 year terms, would it make more sense to do 3 year and 2 year? Because like 1 year, by the time you like even start, your 1 year is up. It almost doesn't make sense for a 1 year term.
Reason we've done it with the inceptions is because everybody, you don't want everybody starting at 0 and ending at 2. So with
Right.
an
Oh,
inception
no, I
board.
totally understand that, but
Yeah.
I'm saying have some of the appointments be a 3 year and some of them be a 2 year.
That's interesting.
Then that way,
Initially.
everybody is there at
Initially.
least for
And
2
initially, I'm fine
years,
with
and
that.
then some people get, one
So-
additional year, and then when the 2 year is up, then you get new people in, or if they want to continue, then they continue.
Yeah.
So is it gonna be a 3-year term? And then
No, I think a 2 year term, but just for the initial, half of them are 3 year and half of them are 2 year. And then at the renewal, then everybody's 2 year.
Right. So instead of
Does that
doing a
make-
1-year start, you
I
do a
got it.
3-year start, and then,
Right.
and then after the completion of the first 3-year term for half the membership, it would go
Great
back to 2.
suggestion.
Okay,
And I wouldn't limit it to bodies of water, though, because we certainly have a problem on Hope Street.
Right.
It's not just
well, I
river
think that
flooding.
would be the, what did you call it, the stormwater flooding.
Yeah.
So that would be the third, it would be Hohokus Brook, Saddle River, and then stormwater.
So the rivers would take 4 spots, Pam, 2 and 2.
Okay.
And then the remaining
And
3
then
of the membership.
stormwater gets 2.
Right,
Okay, gotcha.
so everyone will
member
get
at
2.
large.
Does that sound good to everyone?
Yeah.
Sounds good?
Yeah.
Okay. then
Yep.
we can put it together
Let's
in a
go.
resolution.
All right.
Next.
Okay, next, under operations, we have another right of access agreement. This is being proposed by Verizon Wireless. It's yet another small wireless facility. This one will be placed in the vicinity of 756 East Ridgewood Avenue. Terms and conditions are similar to the prior agreements.
Where is 756 again? I meant to look this up.
I didn't
Don't
Google it,
remember
I'll be
where
honest.
that is.
It's got to be close to the duck pond.
Yeah.
That's 1,200. Right.
Yeah.
And so 800 is South Pleasant to Kenilworth. So
before that.
700 is closer to the high school.
Right.
Okay.
And then lastly, we have authorization for the 2025 municipal aid grant application. Engineering has submitted this to the New Jersey Department of Transportation. This is an application for a section of South Pleasant Avenue between East Ridgewood Ave to Grove Street. This is for resurfacing of South Pleasant. This section of South Pleasant between Grove Street and Houston was part of the 2024 grant award application, and it connects 2 village schools. This area that is being proposed for now was last resurfaced in 2002. Chris is looking for a support resolution.
I just wanted to clarify that the bike lane is on both sides of the north-south road, the South Pleasant. It just is, it's worded a little funny, saying the bike lane would extend north to Somerville School. So it kind of sounds like it's only on one side of the street, but when we were talking about it, when we had
was
the
both sides.
presentation, it was
Yeah.
both sides
I'll
of the
confirm
street.
that with him tomorrow.
Yeah.
But that would be part of his plan, not necessarily referenced in the resolution. Okay? And Mayor, that concludes my portion of the agenda.
Thanks, Keith, and let's go back to public comment.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Boyd A. Loving, 342 South Irving Street. 756 East Ridgewood Avenue is at the corner of Circle,
Circle,
just so you
okay.
know that. Okay.
Thanks.
Mr. Forenza's comments about the shredding remind me that several months ago, I sent a letter, email to the manager and suggested that the village have an electronic shredding day. Maybe not as often as the paper shredding day, maybe once every year, 18 months. And I know there was some extensive research done on that by Mr. Hamill, but I never received a response back as to whether the village was going to undertake that offering or not. I believe Mr. Hamill got back to me twice, had done an extensive amount of research on it, but at least I was not told whether any decision was rendered as to whether this offering was going to be made available to the public. So at some point in time, if we could just close the loop and let me or anybody else who had made that inquiry know whether or not that service is going to be provided, I would appreciate it. Also, as a follow-up, my wife and I have noticed on several occasions during our walks of our dog that there is what we believe to be a hazardous condition at the intersection of Hope Street and Spring Avenue. And the condition is that there are crosswalks painted across Hope Street, but no crosswalks at that intersection are painted across Spring Avenue. And the traffic on Spring Avenue, for those of you who are familiar with the area, moves very, very quickly, particularly at times when people are trying to get their kids to the high school and to Somerville School. And it's quite dangerous if you are at Hope Street and you are trying to cross over Spring Avenue, because the absence of crosswalks means that nobody slows down to stop for you. Personally, I don't understand why no crosswalks are ever painted there. There's a crosswalk across Spring Avenue at Maple. There's a crosswalk across Spring Avenue at South Irving. There's a crosswalk across Spring Avenue at Van Deen. Why no crosswalk was painted at Hope, I don't know, but I'm hoping, no pun intended, that that can be fixed relatively quickly. It seems like an easy fix to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Boyd. Anybody else?
Russell Forenza, 228 Emmett Place, Ridgewood, New Jersey, 07450-280-3281. I just noticed your 3-minute clock up there. Very nice. Makes a lot of things easier with the bell. Anyway, since I lived here since 1951, the bridges on Glen Avenue, Linwood Avenue, Ridgewood Avenue, and Grove Street all came back out of the result of flooding that took place in the 50s and 60s. I don't know what the dates are on the bridges, but we had some hurricanes back then, and it was complete, and the bridges were much narrower than they are today. Basically, 2 cars went across. These are much wider, bigger, and they increased the size of the roads and everything else to accommodate for that flooding that took place back then. Obviously, it still floods yet today, but not as much, I would say, as it would have if those old bridges were still there. Again, on those 4 roads, all those bridges were replaced due to flooding and whatever else. Also, since we got some time here, the Ridgewood Public Schools on the Ridgewood Athletic Field where they play football is a constant problem. They have artificial turf there, and I think maybe twice this year it was overrun with water and everything else. 3 times? 3 times. Thank you, Mayor. I don't know what the solution to that is, but we got to get something. I don't think artificial turf is the way to go. Maybe we ought to go back to grass. But again, I don't know if, I think the Army Corps of Engineering is looking into that. I don't know what the situation is on that or where it stands, but something should be done. And that has always been a problem over the years, so that's nothing new, but the flooding still continues. And one comment you did make, you did speak, you said to the governor about the illegals. What was the result of that?
When you're done, we'll address all of your issues.
I'm sorry?
When you're done, we'll
You'll discuss
address.
that a
Sure.
little? I'd be very interested to hear what he has to
Sure.
say, and what was said about that, and what was agreed to. And since I only got 1 minute and 6 seconds left, I will depart. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure this evening. You've all been very nice, and it's a pleasure working with all of you. Thank you.
Always good having you, Russ.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No, we'll go to our hybrid access. Susan, you're up.
Hello. Susan Moran, 705 Kingsbridge Lane. Congratulations, Keith, for your 1-year anniversary. I will begin by saying that.
Thank you.
I thank you. Thank you for your work as well in responding to my emails today. I just have a question in regard to the, well, I have a few comments. One is regard to the footbridge. I saw the rejection, but I also saw that there was some sort of bid for construction, like for an outsourcing to the construction, and stuff, for structural repair. How does that affect the bidding, or is it independent of the bidding? I just don't want to find out later that the bids will be rejected again because the structural repair found something else and now they have to rebid, etc. I also, the second is regard to the flooding. Yes, I'm very interested in joining the flood committee because I've always been very vocal about it. But I also want to highlight the Salem Ridge area also has stormwater flooding, that whole area, because I remember when FEMA came and we went down to the village hall, we had to, residents gathered, and I was shocked how many people like from Eastgate or Westbrook were there with stormwater flooding. So, when you're looking to find people, you have to also consider that area too, not just Hope Street, but also that area because they also get affected with the stormwater. And then this is just, I know you talked briefly about the having some sort of education for pedestrians and drivers. My son attends the STEPS program, which I always say, but the other day I dropped him off, and as I was leaving, I nearly watched someone get hit on Franklin Ave. People stopped for them, but then one guy decided to go in the turning lane and barrel through because he didn't want to wait, and they almost hit the pedestrians who were crossing the street. And I don't know if there's enough cops on staff to just go and drive around, because I've seen, bad drivers all the time in Ridgewood, and you just ignore. But, there has to be something that has to be done to try to make people safer on the roads. I understand people are in a rush, but, people were beeping the horns trying to tell this person there's someone actually in the crosswalk. And he slammed on his brakes before he hit them. But again, this shouldn't be near misses. There has to be some sort of better protection for pedestrians to cross. And I know that there was a Facebook post about that, but it's just not at Great and Pool. It's elsewhere in Ridgewood that has to be addressed. And that was pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Anybody else? And with that, we're going to close public comment. Would anyone like to address any of the questions raised by the audience?
Mayor, just a few things. First of all, to Mr. Loving, Sean's last name is Hamlin, just to be clear. And he did not recommend at that point to move forward with the electronic shredding, but we did discuss revisiting it when we go into our next budget cycle. So that should close the loop on that particular issue. I will send to Sergeant Torino, the head of our traffic division, the concerns about the crosswalks. So I'll send that to him tonight or tomorrow and have him take a look at that and see if he has any further recommendations for that intersection. Mr. Fiorenza, I just want to stress, and I get emails about this somewhat frequently, about the high school fields, both Stevens and Stadium. I just want to stress to you and to the other residents listening at home that the Village Council nor the Manager's Office have any jurisdiction over deciding what to do with fields on Board of Education property. So both Stevens and Stadium Field, which is the main football field for or the main athletic field, I should say, for the high school, that would be under the jurisdiction of the Board of Education to decide what the future holds for the surface, whether it's grass, whether it remains turf, whether they relocate fields, or any of the discussions that have happened strictly falls under the 5 members of the Board of Education and the district administration. The discussion that the mayor and I had with the governor's office was really direction that if undocumented individuals are brought into any municipality in the state of New Jersey, the municipality really has very little jurisdiction over that. While the mayor did bring up providing some temporary services for folks, especially during the winter months, because that conversation happened in late December, it really is the jurisdiction of the state police to deal with those undocumented folks who are brought into local jurisdictions. I think there was an incident or a situation, I should call it, in Secaucus. I think there was another one in Edison, and that's what prompted the phone calls, especially to the municipalities that had major transportation hubs like we do with the train station here in Ridgewood. Susan, I appreciate the comments about my first year. The contract that was agreed to tonight that will be on for resolution next week is the oversight of the bridge construction when it happens. So they will look over the shop drawings that are prepared by the successful bidder once this project gets rebid. They will also do the field inspections during construction. So that's a separate contract from the construction firm that's awarded the bid to actually make the repairs. The flood committee, again, I think we discussed that extensively tonight. And I think that's all I had.
And Russ,
just-
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to add to, Russ, while we don't have any jurisdiction, I do sit on a joint board named Fields, and I did want to let you know that there's a small group of citizens working on a donation to help the Board of Ed do an enhanced feasibility study. So because it's a pervasive problem, everyone knows it's a problem. Sometimes even analyzing how big the problem is needs money. So we have been diligently working as a committee to try to help and offer those things through some private donations, through some people who have some ideas locally. Those meetings, if you want to get more involved in them, are on 7 a.m. on the first Tuesday of each month. We've suspended for the summer, but if you write me and you want to come, feel free. And I feel all of us will want to say this. I just want to say to Suzanne how sorry I am that we rejected the bids. We had to, and I know this whole council, when I got the packet, I was so bummed. And I'm really sorry about the delay, but I'm really grateful for Matt Rogers' advice because it's the interest of the village. But I want to thank you for your patience and just say, I think I speak for the whole council that we were truly bummed that this was a hiccup that we have no control over. And that's it.
Yeah, I want to echo Siobhan's comments. We were all, it's taken us so long to get to this point. We were very disappointed that we had to reject the bids. And Russ, as to the 2 issues you raised, first, as to flooding, the flooding situation at the high school really doesn't have anything to do with turf, and the best example of that is here at Vets and Maple Field. When Vets floods, which is grass, Maple Field floods, which is turf, and it takes the same amount of time for them to dry out. So it's really not a turf or a non-turf issue, and that's a whole different can of worms. But like I said, it really doesn't affect the flooding. It's really the nature of the waterways that are there and the limitations that DEP places upon us. Because there are certain things that we can do to help flooding here that will only exacerbate flooding downstream, which is understandable why we're not allowed to do that. And as Keith said, in terms of we have a plan that in terms of undocumented people being dropped at our door, because it's not our jurisdiction, there's not much we can do, but our goal is to ensure that those people are safe while they are here. And so in winter months, it becomes a very, very serious issue. So that's where our focus lies.
And Mayor, I will tell you, as part of our discussions with the Army Corps of Engineers, we do plan to have a serious conversation about Maplefield. And, you know, at some point, every 10 or 15 years, the turf needs to be replaced. That will be a discussion point with the Army Corps as to, you know, how their hydraulic testing and how the study progresses and what their recommendation comes down to for when Maplefield does need to be replaced with turf, what decision the village council has to make at that juncture. So, you know, there is a difference when you're deciding whether or not, you know, you agree or disagree with turf fields. There's a bigger decision when you're deciding turf fields in a flood zone, and those are two really distinct decision-making processes, regardless of where you fall on the turf issue as a general best decision for the village.
Yep. Anybody else? No? And with that, we'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.